This video, I'm going to give you some information on how to make a felted coin purse. Right now I have 2 of them in the washer. I'm trying to see if I can get them to felt. It's a new style washer, so it doesn't operate like the original ones that we've had back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. I already ran it through one complete cycle and it did not felt the purses, so I'm trying something different. And I will show you the outcome as soon as it's done, which is going to take some time. But we can go ahead and get started on the actual coin purse. It has to be 100% wool. I like to use the Cascade 220. It really felts up well when your machine is cooperating. And you have to use 2 strands. So what I usually do is I take this, use my wool winder, and wind them up into the balls like this. That way they're easier to work with. Because if you have to try to figure out how to divide it in 100 yards in one ball and 100 yards in a second ball, then put your 2 balls together, it doesn't always work. So what I do is by putting them in these type of balls, here's a little one to show you. Then you can pull from the center and pull from the side at the same time, and you can actually knit and the ball releases its yarn for you. So this is a quick, easy way to do it, and the yarn doesn't get tangled. You don't have to guesstimate how much 100 yards is, because when you run out, you've actually used up the whole ball. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. There's really not a whole lot to it. It's just still the basic knitting. You have to follow the pattern. Let me go ahead and get this one started. Okay, you start with a cast on of 4. We start at the top up here of the flap. Now I did a mistake. I forgot to do the last 3 rolls right here. So this one is not going to fold over correctly. But I didn't realize I did it till after it was all sewn together. So that's one of my boo-boos. But that doesn't matter. It's just something. I can still probably felt it and see how it works. But we'll see. Okay, first we go ahead and I got to make this a little bit bigger. Cast on 4 stitches. Cast on any way you like. I like to do the long tail cast on. This is just the one I prefer to do. You can do a cable cast on. You can do the standard cast on, or you can do the cast on where you hold one yarn over and then wrap it around. That you can do that too. So it doesn't matter. You just want to cast on, and always use 2 strands. That's what gives it the thickness it needs, so when it felts, it stays nice and snug. Okay, let's bring up I've already got this on both Ravelry.com and my website, StitchNiche.com, so the pattern is out there already. Now I just thought I'd better get something started on my YouTube video. It starts with knit 4. And how you do your increase is your choice. I don't always like to put increases along the edge, but with this one it felt so nicely. Even if you do it on the edge, it still comes out kind of smooth. But everybody has their own way of doing things. Okay, number 2, knit across, increasing 1 stitch in the first and last stitch of the roll. I generally don't like to do the first and last stitch, but you can if you want to. I like to do the 2nd stitch in, do the standard increase, and then knit to the last 2 stitches. In this case, these are the last 2, and then you do your 2nd increase, 1 stitch before the last stitch, and then knit your last stitch. So at this point, there's 6. Mainly I'm doing this because I want to show you how to get in here to do the buttonhole. All right, now number 3, knit across. And you use a size 10 needle because you want it to be kind of loose, but yeah, not super loose. And it works best when 2 strands of yarn because it allows you to not knit it so tight. Okay, row 4, knit 1, increase in the next stitch, knit 2, increase in the next stitch, knit 1. So that's basically what we did before, but now we actually have 2 stitches in the middle. So we would knit 1, increase, knit in the front and back of the same stitch, knit 2, and then increase, and knit the last stitch. Okay, so that's number 4. Now 5 and 6 are the 2 rows that we make the buttonhole with. Now if you don't want to use the buttonhole and you want to use Velcro, you can do that too. You just skip this 5 and 6. Instead, you just repeat 1 and 2 another time, and that does not give you the hole. And then you can sew a button on the flap and super glue Velcro on the inside of the flap so you could have it a Velcro type closure. But I'm going to do the buttonhole one. So it's knit 4, bind off 2 stitches, and knit the remaining stitches. So we knit 4. Now we bind off 2 stitches. So we're going to bind off the first stitch here. It's a little tight because it's this heavier yarn, and then we bind off a second one, you knit it, and you bind it off 2. So you're binding off the 2 in the center. That gives you the hole for your buttonhole. And then the next roll is where we will make the top part of the buttonhole. So in 6, you knit 1, increase in the next stitch, knit 1, and then cast on 2. You can use any type of cast on you prefer, whichever one you're comfortable with, because when you're felting this, all these stitches will disappear. So we're going to do the increase, knit 1. Now I like to do a cable cast on. There's 2 different ways you can do a cable cast on. Some people like to knit in the front of the stitch, leaving this on the needle, and then go on the back there. And some like to go on the back loop of the stitch and bring it up on the needle. Both ways will work. It's entirely up to you which one you want. Now you turn your work back and continue where you left off. Knit 1, increase, and knit your last stitch. So now you see we got the hole right there, and we got our 2 stitches back. Okay, so at this point it says to repeat rows 1 through 2 until you have 18 stitches. So right now for row 7 is the same as row 1, so we're going to knit each stitch across. Now when you get to the cast-ons, you got to be careful and make sure you knit each of the cast-ons separately. Since I did 2 different ways here, I have to be a little more careful. I always do it the same way. I don't knit in the front loop and then knit in the back loop of the next stitch. I normally don't do it. I just did that to show those are 2 different ways to do a cable cast on. But you can do whichever cast on you prefer. Okay, so you definitely can see the hole. Okay, now row 2, because we're repeating 1 and 2. So row 2 is a knit, increasing 1 stitch in the first and last stitch of your row there. I like to do it in the second stitch. That gives me a nice smoother edge than if I do the increase on in the first stitch. But you can do it in the first stitch if you prefer. Then you knit across. I'm down to the last 2 stitches, so this is where I'll do my increase. And knit the last one. I gotta get some more yarn. There, okay, now it'll be a little easier, won't be so tight. All right, now, okay, so we did row 7 and 8. So now we gotta do 7 and 8 again, or 1 and 2 again. So first roll is knit. You don't really have to count your rolls, you just have to make sure you count your stitches. Since this is a knit across, I'm not gonna count them. We're almost there. Okay, now we'll do repeat row 2, which is the increase. So we knit 1, increase in the second stitch, knit to the end, but like I said, in the second to the last stitch I increase. Others prefer to do the increase in the very last stitch. You can do it in the last stitch also. Okay, there we go. Now let's see how many stitches we have. How close are we to 18? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. So that means we got 4 more rows. So this is a plain knit across. Almost there. It's a little tight going too. It's kind of stiffer feeling because of the yarn itself. All right, now this would be our increase row. And each time you do this, you're adding 2 stitches. So we go from 4 to 6 to 8, and so on all the way up to 18. Just about there. Oh, one more. That was my increase. And then I knit the last one. All right, so how many do we have now? It should be 16, I think. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 14, 16. Okay, so I have 2 more to do. And then I will come back when I get ready to do the next set. Okay, I think I'm at 18. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. Okay, I'm at 18. So that means I finished row 14. Now I do just plain knit for row 15 through 17. So I'll go ahead and do that. Okay, I've got rows 15 through 17 done. So this is the actual front of the flap, and there's the hole for your button. Now I'm going to switch colors just like I did with here. And as you work this, you're going to increase and decrease. So your change purse is going to have these unusual shapes to it. I've got a picture here I took of it. So you can see how it comes out this way. And then this is the bottom right here. And when you fold it over, this part touches this part, so it kind of tapers. That's how you get this wide section at the bottom and tapering up to your flap itself. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Now it says we got to cut this off. That's it. That's a quick, easy thing to do. Now when you get ready to start with your other color, I got to get some yarn out. Give me a second to get some yarn out. Should have done this first. Okay. You need to leave yourself a tail of about 14 to 16 inches because that's the thread you will use to sew up one side, because that's you don't want to use the wrong color. And then when you finish it, you leave a long tail on the other end, so that way you can sew up the other side. Let me fold this up. That might help a little bit. Unfortunately, I forgot to leave a tail on this side. But when you lay it down, you can see how the bottom fluffs out this way. And you use this thread to sew that side, and then of course this one fluffs out this way. And the tail that I was supposed to leave here, which I didn't do, would sew up the other side. But I'll do it right on the one I'm doing now. I'm going to get myself a 14-inch tail, give or take. And it says, if you're changing your color, leave your 14-inch tail in the main color to sew up your seam. Or you can continue with the existing color and make your coin purse all one color like I did back here. You can do them all the same color if you like. It's entirely up to you. Row 1 starts with a purl, which is kind of odd, but starts with a purl. So I hold my thread in front, Make sure this doesn't get, I'm holding the other thread back here. That way it kind of gives a little bit of tension on your first stitch. And you want to purl. Oh, I dropped it. Purl your first stitch, but don't pull on it. Just let it relax. Do your second stitch. Now after you get your second stitch, then you can do some adjusting if you like. Tighten it up a little bit. It'll stay pretty well by itself. And then I like to tie a square knot after I've done a couple of rolls to hold the two threads together. It's not necessary if you don't like to do knots, because there's not supposed to be knots in knitting. But I kind of like to use knots in certain places for extra strength and durability. And since this is a coin purse, I may need the extra durability right there where the two colors meet. Although when you felt, all the yarn kind of smooshes all together. It separates in the washer because you're using a little bit of soap. And then as the blue jeans or rug or whatever you use as an agitator beats it, it kind of beats them together and makes a nice mesh. It's really neat the way it works. You can't see it working, but that's the basis of it. Okay, so there I've got my 14-inch tail. And of course the one that I finished with. We'll deal with these two later. Now row 2 is a knit. It's all basic stockinette from this point on. Knit a row, purl a row, and then of course there's increases at certain points in order to give you the shape. Now some of the yarn, even though it's from the same company, feels stiffer than others. Like this royal blue felt stiffer when I was using it, where this red doesn't feel as stiff, so it's a little bit easier going. But when it felts, it'll all felt down correctly. So let's get all the way across. And always be careful when you yarn over, you catch both of these threads. It's very easy to, when you yarn over, miss one. You don't want to miss one. You want to definitely catch them all. Now when you get over to this end, these stitches are going to be a little loose again, so just be careful and just be very gentle and don't pull. And when you're done, you can pull it. Okay, so that's row 2. Row 3 says purl across, so let's purl. After we finish row 3, I'm going to make my knot. Like I said, it's not a requirement, it's just something I personally like to do. And you can do it if you like, or you don't have to knot it. You can weave the tails in after you've sewn the seam, because that will work also. Since this is the purl side, the needle comes to the front. Yarn over and then goes to the back. Now when you knit, it's just the opposite. It goes to the back and comes to the front. It's just the same thing in a mirror reverse. And so this is row 3. After I finish this row, I'm going to go get my kacha, which is a neat row counter. But I forgot to bring it in when I started. Okay, I got one more stitch left. There it is. Okay, so now I've got 3 rows done. And you can see how the stockinette is a lot smoother than the garter. But I like to knot this. Like I said, this is just my personal choice. I like to do this. I pull them tight. Then I do right over left. Then I do left over right. That makes what's called a square knot. As you can see, it lays nice and square. So then when you do this, your yarns lay to the side. If you do a granny knot, the yarns lay this way. So with a square knot, they'll lay like this. So this one you can weave down here, or you can weave through here. And then this one, of course, you will use to sew your side seam. Let me go get my counter. This is my counter. They call it a kacha, I guess because of the noise it makes. And each time you finish a row, you just push the top and it counts for you. It does stand up. So you can just go like that and go do your next row, go and just keep doing like this, and you can count your rows. Now once you get through or done, all you have to do is turn this to 0 and turn this to 0. and you're ready to start again. Now, since I've already done the first 3 rows, I can go like this, move it to 3, or I can just do it like that to move it to 3. Now I'm ready to start row 4. I'm not going to stand it up because you can't see it. So I'll lay it down, so I'll count it this way instead of my usual way of pushing like that. All right, so now we're on row 4. And row 4 is knit. And I don't have to worry about the other end because I've already tied my square knot and secured my 2 tails. I could weave in the blue tail at this point so it's not in my way, but I usually do all my weaving at the end, except for under special circumstances. Now when you felt it, you put it in your washing machine using hot water and something to agitate it, like a pair of blue jeans. A rug works great. Anything that's heavy and stiff. I've got a pair of my husband's blue jeans and my denim skirt in with mine right now, and you have just enough water to cover everything. You don't want it to be real full of water, and because then instead of it agitating like this, it's just swishing around like this, and you definitely need the rubbing in order to get the yarn to felt. Okay, I've done 4 rows. Now I'll do row 5. Then we'll turn the page over and see where we're at. But like I said, it's just strictly knit and purl all the way. It goes fairly quickly. You should be able to have it knitted in 2 to 3 hours depending on how fast you knit. And like me, how many boo-boos you do that you have to rip out, because it's very easy to miscount a row. If you don't have a gotcha, you can use the one that you put on the end of your needle, or you can do the old-fashioned hash marks where you just do 5, and that's 5 rows, and then do 5 more, and 5 more rows that way. You can do that, whatever way works best for you, or you can use locking markers and put a mark on every 10th row, and then you can count using the marker. So there's no one right way, whatever way works for you. And that's the way you should do it. There's no need to try to change your method now just because I'm doing it a different way. Okay, I just finished row 5. Like I said, I could take one of the markers and place the marker on a roll like that. So then when I count, that's row 1, 2, 3, 4, and the one on the needle is row 5. Now I can do it until I get to row 10, then place a marker at row 10, and then I start counting 11 through 20. So that is another way to mark them. I like using these little markers. They're great. They're just little safety pins. They're also by Clover. They're very soft and pliable. They open and close. They come in 2 sizes. I sell them on my website. They're really handy. They can be used for all kinds of things. A lot of times I use them to hold 2 sides together, and then when I do that, then it'll hold it together while I sew it. That's another great use for these things. Or if I want to remember the front of a project, I put this on the front of the project, so every time I turn my work, I know this is the front and this is the back. So they have multiple uses. Okay, let's get back to where we left off. Get that out of the way. Oh, that's the same page. I had made some corrections. All right, row 6, we're going to do an increase. That's our first increase to start the spread on either side. So I have it set to be a make one. I found the make one works best because if you do an increase, I'll show you what happens if you do an increase. Then I can always take this out. You can see right here. Let me get this laying out. So you get a little bar right there from doing the increase because that makes this a purl stitch. You can do it because when you felt, that'll probably all just felt in together and you will never see it. Or you can do a make one. I just like to do make ones better than increases, but both work just the same. So if you'd rather do an increase, just change the make one to an increase. And then you go across knitting 6. Let's see. Oh, I'm sorry, 16, not 6. Or go to the last stitch. I forgot to pull thread out again. I'm really good about not bringing thread out so it's nice and loose while I'm working. I just went and checked my wash machine. This time I think it might be working. The water level is low, like it should be, and it does have the soap in it. So I'm hoping with the lower water level, it will felt the little 2 purses that I have done. And they may not be dry when I show them to you, but you'll definitely be able to see what they look like before and after. Okay, now 7, 8, 9, and 10 are just purl, knit, purl, knit. I'm not going to stand here and have you watch me do 4 rows of purl, knit, purl, knit. I'll just go ahead and finish this purl row. Whoops. And then pause the video and do the other 2 rows, then come back when I get ready to do the next increase. And the last increase I showed you was a regular increase, front and back of the same stitch. The second time I do it, I'm going to use the make one like I prefer to do. But like I said, both work just fine. I've done it both ways. I've done it where the increases are right on the very edge. And when they felt, you can't even see that it's rough. It's very smooth looking after it felts. All the fibers just blend in together very nicely. So it doesn't matter completely how you do it, because all the stitches just mold together into one smooth, even piece of work. And when you're finished, the felted one should be about half the size of the one you've knitted. All right, so I've done row 7, so I'll do 8 and 9, and I'll be right back. All right, I've completed up through row 11. So now we'll do 12, which is a repeat of row 6. But in this case, I'm going to show you the make one. Because the last one I did, I showed you the regular increase where you knit in the front and back of the same loose. A make one is you go between the stitches and pick up the horizontal bar, place it on your needle, and knit through the back loop. Now sometimes with fat needles, it's hard to get through that back loop. So what I do is I go in the front and I go ring around the rows and go around the needle. That gets me on the back. And then, whoops, try again. There. And then I get my stitch. And see, it looks like a regular knit stitch. It doesn't look like a purl. And then you knit to the end. Or should I say 1 stitch before the end, and then you do your other make one. Now there's a left make one and a right make one. I have trouble doing the opposite make one, so something like this, I don't bother doing the other make one. It just makes the stitch lean the other direction. And with this project, it doesn't matter which way it leans, because when you felt it, you'll never see it. I'm just about there. Got 3 more stitches to go. Whoops, there, I made a mistake. See, I only caught 1 of the 2 threads. You have to be very conscious of your threads. All right, so same thing. You pick up the horizontal bar, put it on the needle, and then you want to knit through the back loop. But sometimes it's hard to get that back loop. So if you can't reach it, just go around like this. So you're just basically going around the tip of your left needle, yarn over, and finish your stitch. So when you do a make one, you really don't see the actual stitch, where when you do the increase, you actually can see that little horizontal bar pop out. Okay, that's 12. Now 13 through 17 is just knit and purl. I'll go ahead and go through those and come back when I hit row 18. All right, I've done all the way through 17, and as you can see, it's starting to get a little wider here. 18, okay, at this point it should have 22 stitches. Let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22. So now we're going to start the decrease. The first decrease is the one that does this part here, and then we're going to do an increase to bring it back out. Get that out of the way. So we're going to knit 1 SSK. I like to do knit 2 together through the back loop. I found that's easiest for me. Then knit 16, knit 2 together, knit 1, and we should have 20 at that point. So I'll show you how I like to do the SSK. I have a video out there that shows SSK 3 ways. I think that's what it's called. So you can see the 3 different ways you can successfully do an SSK. SSK means slip, slip, knit. So you slip a stitch, then you slip another stitch, put them back on the opposite needle, then knit them together. That to me is more work than I need to do. So instead, I just knit both of them together through the back loop. Does the exact same thing, and it's a lot easier. And see, they twisted off to this way. When you do a knit 2 together, they twist off this way. So now we're going to knit 16, or just say knit to the last 3 stitches, because when you knit 2 together and have 1 left over, that'll give you 3. So let's go ahead and knit to the almost end. This is the part that seems to take the longest because you're knitting back and forth and back and forth, and it feels like you're not getting very far. Okay, I'm down to 3, so now we're going to knit 2 together, then knit 1. So when you knit 2 together through the front loop, and then you knit 1. See, this one went this direction right here, and this one went this direction right here. So since it's curving in, those 2 stitches curve in also. Okay, I did 18. Then we purl row 19, and I'll count as I purl. We should have 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Okay, I know I'm correct. Row 19. Now row 20 will do the same thing. Oh, I got a correction right there. That M does not belong, so it's knit 1 SSK. So I'll make the correction on my pattern and re-upload it tomorrow. Okay, so we knit 1. SSK. Knit 14 through the middle, leaving the last 3 stitches. Oops, I missed. We're getting there. I hate to do a lot of this behind the scenes, but when it's just the same thing over and over again, I'd rather do it behind. Okay, knit 2 together, knit 1. Okay, 21, we purl across. Sometimes it's kind of hard to hold the needles. My hands and I are not friends anymore. So if you see me fumble or drop something, please forgive me. It's just, they're not young and spry like they used to be. Sometimes it's really awkward trying to hold the needles and do my work at the same time. Okay, so that was row 21. So now row 22 is knit 1, SSK, knit 12. Okay, see how it's moving in? And on this side, it's going in. Okay, so SSK, Like I said, me and my fingers are not always on the best of terms. And then knit 12. Oops, missed. Okay, we're down to the last 3, so knit 2 together, knit 1, row 22, 23 is purl across, and then we start doing the increasing again. And you've seen how the increase works. It's done the same way. Knit 1, make 1, or knit 1, increase in the front and back of the same loop, and then knit 14, make 1, knit 1. So since I've already done those a few times, I'll just kind of go through those to the side and come back when I get to this area here. Because like I said, I don't like to monotonously have you stand around watching me do the basic stuff. 2 more stitches. Okay, so that number 23 is done, which is right here. So now 24, now we're starting again where we're going to make 1 or do the increase. See, I've got the going in part, which is this part here. Now I'm going to do the going out part, which is the other side. So you can do either the make 1, or you can do the knit in the front and back of the same loop. Both of them will work just fine. Okay, I'll come back when I'm at 29. I went ahead and finished it through 31, which is all the stuff we've been doing, where we knit 1, make 1 or increase, and the middle stitches, increase, knit 1, and then purl across. I did that through 29, and then 30 and 31 were just plain knit and purl, so I went ahead and did those. So now we're on 32, which is a decrease roll. This is the one that's going to start taking the back side of the change purse, tapering towards the flap. So it's what we normally do: knit 1 SSK, knit 16, knit 2 together, knit 1. So that'll take us down from 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22 stitches down, from 22 down to 20. So we'll do the knit 1 SSK, knit the 16, oops, we're getting there. A couple more stitches, and we knit 2 together, knit the last one. That was finishing row 32. Now row 33 is purl, so 33 on, and well, the rest of it you know how to do: knit purl to 38, and then we do it the last decrease, then knit purl, and then the last 4 rows are just plain knit. So that gives us this nice sturdy garter stitch edge where the money will be taken in and out. So let me go ahead and get these purled, these 33 through 37 done, and that'll get us right down to the bottom. All right, I went ahead and finished through row 40, which was the knit row, and then of course the last 4 rows are just plain knit. And then after you do your last 4 rows of knit, you do your bind off. And I got to go find a big needle, because you want to use the largest needle that you're comfortable with, but not one that's so big that it stretches your stitches. Well, I don't think my washing machine can felt because it went through 2 complete cycles and they're still not felted. So I'm gonna see if my daughter-in-law's machine is one of the old style machines that has no trouble felting. All these new modern machines just do not have the capability or hot enough water or agitation needed in order to do a felt. But I can show you what they look like at this point, and then I'll compare the size of it to this finished product. Right now I put them in the dryer because they're wet. I'm hoping maybe with some luck the dryer will felt them down a little bit more. I honestly don't know because I've never put a project in the dryer after I've gone through the felting process in the washer. 2 more rolls, and we can bind off, then I gotta go find a needle. Oh, I'm sorry, I've gotta stay up here on the screen for you. I'm sorry I went down too far. But of course, you know how to knit. The main aspect was to show how the pieces went together and when the increases and decreases were done in order to make the shape. Now, not all felted items have all this increasing and decreasing. A handbag would probably just be a little bit straighter knitting, possibly even knitting in the round so there's no seam. I'd have to look at my other patterns to see. There's also other ways of felting where you put the item inside rolls of towels and rub them back and forth with your hands on a table or a hard surface, and that's supposed to help felt too. I've never tried that particular method yet. Okay, there's the last roll. That's row 44. Right, where's my, oh, there it is. Okay. So on the back side will be your bind off row. And then you leave another 12 to 15 inch tail to sew the other side seam up with. So you bind off by knitting 2, first stitch over second. Then knit the next stitch, first stitch over second. And just repeat it, first stitch, that's one nice thing about knitting. There's a lot of repetition. All knit or all purl or a bunch of yarn overs, or in this case, a bunch of bind offs. Of course, it also can be done continental version where you have your yarn in your left hand, and also it can be done left-handed. And when you do it left-handed, your SSKs are a knit 2 together, and your knit 2 togethers will be an SSK. That allows the stitches to lean the right direction. However, with the felting, it won't be seen anyway because it'll all be mushed together. Unfortunately, I'm not sure if on this video I can show it being a finished product. I can go ahead and get it through ready to be felted, and then tomorrow I'll see if I can get into my daughter-in-law's machine and see if hers will work. Okay, so needles. Now you want to cut yourself a good sized length of a tail because you want to be able to sew it together. Okay, and now it's ready for sewing together. See, this could be a good time to, if you want to, hold it with one of your safety pins. Do the same with this one. There. You can see how you got your little curve here now. Okay, let me go find a needle so we can get this sewn up. I found my needle. I use this one. I think it's a 16. If you need something bigger, you can always use a 13. I don't have a 13 with me, but I know the 16 will work. These are the tapestry needles that have the blunt tips. Oh, let me show you how I do that. When I get ready to thread a needle, you can't thread it this way. There's no way you can do that. You can use a needle threader if you like, but to me this works just as quick. You lay the yarn across the eye, pull it tight, so you got this little dot. When you pull the needle out, you leave your fingers very tight so you still have that little line. Then you lay your needle across it and slowly saw back and forth as you gently release the pressure, and the yarn will go right in. Quick and easy. All right, so let's go ahead and start sewing this together. I like to sew in this direction. You only have to worry about doing a whip stitch because when it felts, it all tangles up together. And it doesn't have to be perfect. You just don't want to pull it so tight that it puckers or gathers up the yarn. And me having this little safety pin there helped hold it in place to get started. Now at this point, I try to make sure that both of the edges are unrolled because stockinette always likes to roll. So you just go all the way down to the bottom. Thinks I'm just about done there. Now you would do this with any one of the projects. Now if one of them says to do it inside out, just follow what the directions say if you're doing another project other than this one. But I know this works really well on the coin purse. And then you just slide your thread up. Okay, so that side's done. Get the thread out of the way. Let's go to the other one. Get this down a little further. Helps hold everything steady. Okay, we thread the needle again. Put the needle, yarn over the eye of the needle, pull it tight so you have a little tiny dot. And then you saw back and forth as you slowly release the pressure. If you release the pressure before you start sewing it back and forth, then you won't be able to thread it. Okay, let me get this one going. Then I'll go check the dryer and see what it looks like. I don't think the dryer will do anything to affect the felting process, but it'll still give you an idea. I'll have to do a second video on actually the felting process. But I want to get this video finished. Just go all the way up the sides. Okay, and then weave the yarn back up through the side. And then do the same with your other ones. I usually just run it up the side like this. And I have this one over here to do. There we go. Now once it's felted down, you'll have a hole up here. Now a lot of times when you felt it, sometimes the hole kind of felts together, which is not a major issue. What you would do is get your scissors and snip it. Since the fabric is going to be so woven together that even if you snip it, it will not unravel. And then of course you put your button here and you'd have your finished product. Okay, let me go get the one that's in the dryer and we'll see what it looks like.